The cameras rolled. The audience murmured in anticipation, their excitement buzzing through the studio like electricity in the air. This wasn't just another interview. This was history unfolding. Two titans sat across from each other. Two figures who had shaped their industries, changed the world in their own ways. On one side, Clint Eastwood, a Hollywood legend, a man who had defined what it meant to be tough, to be iconic, to leave a mark that lasted generations. On the other, Elon Musk, the tech visionary, the billionaire dreamer who had redefined space travel and electric vehicles, a man whose ambitions stretched beyond Earth itself. The world watched, breath held, as the conversation began. At first, it was smooth, a friendly discussion on ambition, success, and the ever-elusive American dream. The host, a seasoned journalist, leaned in, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Mr. Musk, you've revolutionized technology with Tesla and SpaceX. Mr. Eastwood, you've shaped Hollywood, an entire era of storytelling and film. Two icons, two industries. What keeps you both going? What's the fire that drives you?" Elon smirked, leaning back with the confidence of a man who had answered this question 100 times before. "Simple," he said, his voice even. "I believe in progress. The world doesn't move forward without risk-takers. You have to push boundaries, take chances. Sometimes, breaking the rules is the only way to get ahead." The audience nodded, murmuring in agreement. But then Clint raised an eyebrow. That signature look. The look that had sent shivers down spines in movies for decades. A slow, measured gaze that spoke volumes without a single word. The crowd chuckled knowingly. Everyone recognized that expression. "Well," Clint said, his voice steady, carrying the weight of experience, "I built my career on a different kind of principle." He paused, letting the moment breathe, making every listener hang on to his next words. "Progress without integrity. That's just recklessness." The air in the room changed. The energy shifted. The tension thickened. Elon leaned forward slightly, arms folding across his chest. His smirk hadn't faded, but there was something else now, a flicker of challenge. "Are you saying I lack integrity?" he asked, his tone light, but his eyes sharp. Clint didn't flinch, didn't waver. Instead, he met Elon's gaze with the same unshaken steadiness he had carried for decades. "I'm saying," Clint said, voice unwavering, "that success without respect for the people who help you build your dreams? That's a hollow victory." A murmur rippled through the audience. Some nodded, others exchanged glances. This wasn't just a debate about business anymore. This was something deeper. The host, sensing the tension, cleared his throat. "Gentlemen, let's keep this civil." But Clint wasn't done. His voice cut through the air like a knife. "Let me tell you a story," he said, leaning slightly forward. The room went still. "There was once a man who climbed so fast, so high, he never looked down. Never thought to. Every brick in his empire was laid by someone else, and he never stopped to see the hands that built it. And then, one day," Clint let the silence stretch, his pause more powerful than words. "He finally did look down. And there was no one left to catch him when he fell." Dead silence. Even Elon, always quick with a sharp response, seemed momentarily caught off guard. Would he laugh it off? Fire back? The audience held their breath. For the first time that night, Elon hesitated. He was used to debates, used to challenges. But something about Clint's words had struck deeper than expected. Still, he wasn't one to back down easily. A smirk returned to his lips. He leaned forward, his voice controlled. "That's a great story, Clint," he said, choosing his words carefully. "But let's be honest, if people always waited for permission to change the world, we'd still be riding horses." The audience chuckled. A light moment. But Clint? He remained still, unshaken. Elon continued, confidence flowing back into his words. "I didn't get where I am by worrying about who was laying the bricks. I build rockets. I push limits. I take risks that most people are too afraid to take." His gaze locked onto Clint's. "If we all played by the rules, innovation would die." Clint nodded slowly, as if weighing Elon's words. Then a small smile, barely there, but unmistakable. You think being fearless means being reckless? He asked, his voice steady, commanding attention without effort. The audience laughed at the subtle jab, but Clint wasn't joking. Let me tell you something, kid, he continued. The laughter grew louder at the kid part, but Clint's tone remained firm. The strongest men I've known weren't the ones who broke every rule just to win. They were the ones who knew when to slow down, when to listen, when to respect the people who helped them get there. He locked eyes with Elon. Because a leader without loyalty? He's just a man walking alone. Elon opened his mouth to reply, but Clint wasn't finished. I've seen too many men think they were invincible, Clint said. Until the world reminded them they weren't. The room was electric. Elon chuckled, shaking his head. So you're saying I should slow down? Play it safe. Clint's gaze never wavered. Not at all. I'm saying that building an empire is one thing. Another pause. Keeping it standing? That takes something else entirely. The silence in the studio was deafening. Elon Musk, the billionaire genius, the man known for always having the last word, was suddenly at a crossroads. Fire back, or take in a lesson. He exhaled sharply, fingers tapping the armrest. Then finally he spoke. But this time, there was something different in his tone. I get what you're saying, Clint, Elon admitted, his voice slower now. I move fast. I expect the best. Maybe that makes me tough. But in my world, hesitation means failure. Clint nodded. And what happens when you move so fast that you don't see the damage left behind? For a moment, something flickered in Elon's expression. Something deeper. You know, Clint continued, his voice softer now, I've met men like you before. Visionaries. Dreamers. Some of them built empires. Changed history. But the ones who forgot to look back. He shook his head. They ended up alone. Or worse, forgotten. Elon let out a small laugh, but this one wasn't as confident. So, what, you think I should slow down? Be more sentimental? Clint's eyes never left his. I think you should remember that even the greatest empire is just a house of cards, if it has no foundation. A hush fell over the room. Even a host was speechless. Elon looked down for a moment, as if processing something he hadn't let himself consider before. Then he lifted his gaze back to Clint. You're old school, he said finally. But maybe there's something to that. A knowing smile tugged at Clint's lips. Maybe. The audience could feel the shift. This wasn't about winning or losing anymore. This was about something bigger, something real. A slow ripple of applause spread through the room, growing louder and louder. Elon Musk sat quietly, then nodded. You're right about one thing, Clint, he said. I've spent my life always looking forward. Maybe I haven't looked back enough. Clint leaned back, satisfied. Nothing wrong with moving fast, kid, he said with a slight grin. Just don't forget to take a few people with you. The crowd erupted. And just like that, a lesson had been delivered. A moment of understanding between two legends.